In this lesson, we're going to see how to create methods that allow you to display the data stored in an object. And we're going to look at two different types of methods. One, a toString method that you'd use primarily with debugging, and then another method which will be just a display method, which would be part of the public interface that any user of the class would use. So let's start out with the toString method. It's a public method because we want the user of the class to be able to access it. We may take it out when we actually publish the class and give it out to final users, but for now we'll include it. So it's a public method. It's going to return a string, and it's called toString. And all it's going to do is it's going to display the state of the object at any particular time. And so what we want to know are just what are the values for the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. And we want that in a fairly readable format. So we're going to write it like this. We're going to write return hours, and then the hours themselves. And then we want to put that on its own line, so we'll put a new line. And then we'll do minutes. And then a new line. And then seconds. And a new line. Actually, we don't need a new line here because that's the last line of the string. And then we close off the body. So that's the toString method. It's going to show us the hours, the minutes, and the seconds with labels for each one of those. So let's save that. And then let's compile. Move the screen first. And it compiles fine. Now let's open up our working program or our test program, part 2. And so you see I've already got the information here to save a little bit of time. The time equals new time, and we set it to 11:23:0. And then to write it out, we're going to write the time toString, and that's how we call the method. So let's save that, compile it, then run it. And there it shows the state of the object after the constructor call. That's the only time we've done anything to the data. So that's how you write toString. Let's go back to the time class. And that's fine for debugging purposes, but we also would want a display method of some type that a user of the class could use. So why don't we make that method name display? We might say display time. We'll just leave it at display for now. We can always change it later if we decide that's not appropriate. So it's going to look similar to our toString method, except we want a different format. Generally, the time is displayed in hours, minutes, seconds. So let's give that a shot. So we have hours plus a colon, plus the minutes, plus a colon, plus the seconds. And this is a very simple method to define. We could modify these in some ways and have 12-hour format, 24-hour format. We'll probably look at that in the exercises. But for now, we'll have just a simple display method. So let's save that. Clear the screen. Let's compile the class again. Although I can't imagine whether there'd be any problems with such a simple method. Now let's go back to our working program. And let's change this from toString to display. Save the file. Compile it. I've already got it here somewhere, so let's find it. There it is. And then run. And there's our display time. The only problem I see with that is that generally the format for displaying the time should be 2-digit hours, 2-digit minutes, 2-digit seconds. Notice that the seconds are displayed as 1 digit because it's 0. If the time had been 9:23, it also would have been displayed with 1 digit. So we need to go back and rethink how our display method works. So let's bring the class code back up. So what I want to do is I want to create a string for each one of the data members, hours, minutes, and seconds, so that we can add a 0 onto it if it's less than 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 3 variables, hours, mins, or HRS, mins, and SECS for seconds. And then we're going to say if hours is less than 10, hours is equal to hours plus a 0. Notice that I do that in a string. Else hours is equal to hours plus, and then we concatenate an empty string. We have to do that because you can't just directly assign an integer hours to a string variable HRS. We have to kind of turn the integer into a string by concatenating the empty string. We saw that earlier in the course when we were working with chars. It's the same situation. So we'll do the same thing for minutes. Mins equal to minutes plus empty string, and then we'll do the same thing for seconds. And then concatenate empty string. And there we go. I think I have 2 closings. I do. There we go. I believe that's it. So let's save the file. Compile it again. This is our time class. Whoops, there it is right there. Okay. And we forgot to return it. So let's go back. As always, I got caught up in the process and forgot the final result. There we go. Save the file. Compile it again. Compiles just fine. Now let's find our working program, recompile it, and run it. So there you see that now the seconds are displayed in a 2-digit format. Let's try one more piece of that. Let's change the hours to 9. Let's just change the minutes to 1. Just to verify that it works for all cases. Compile and run. Oops. You see the mistake we made. We concatenated on the end instead of on the beginning. So let's go back and fix that. It's no problem. Just have to reverse it. Take the string 0 and add the hours. Do the same thing for minutes. And then do the same thing for seconds. Save the file. Compile again. Let's clear the screen. Now let's compile. There's our working program. There we go. 09, 01, 00. So to recap, what we've learned how to do is create 2 methods for displaying the data. One method, toString, is used primarily as a debugging tool, and we'll look at that in more detail later. And then the second is a more general display method, actually named display, that we could use to let the user of our class display the time from one of their time objects. Now we're ready to move to the next lesson where we're going to talk more about the accessor methods, or the setters and the getters, that we use to return pieces of data from a class or to set either a whole time or parts of a time as necessary. And we'll see that in the next lesson.